Hey, what's going on? It's Hercules back, another video. I'm gonna get philosophical and we're gonna talk about Mayat. Now, I didn't want to make a video at first because I didn't want to just repeat what someone else already did. So that's why I didn't do a video. But I looked around and I was looking at the videos that people were posting, and they all had a central theme. And I believe there was missing one key element, and that's Isfet. So in all the videos everybody posted, I just didn't see anybody dealing with Isfet in the video and talking about it. Everybody just talking about peace, justice, and righteousness. Mayat, peace, justice, righteousness, which is Mayat. However, you can't just talk about Mayat without talking about Isfet. So that's what I want to get into. And like there was a common theme in all the videos that I saw. Everybody only talked about Mayat, truth, justice, and righteousness, and didn't go into depth about Isfet when we live in an Isfetic society. So how do we bring forth Mayat when we're in Isfetic society? That's the question that we have to deal with. And I believe too many of the videos that you guys post are on similar, like turning the other cheek, just being this better spiritual person, being this righteous person. But we have to deal with Isfet. We have to deal with evil. And there was no conversation on balance on how to deal with the evil or understanding Mayat's conquering Isfet. So that's what I want to get into. And I'm gonna start at the beginning, do a just brief overview of the Kemetic cosmology. Not too much because I'm just dealing with Mayat, so I'm not gonna do the whole thing because we're just dealing with Mayat. So we want to keep it right there. We know in the beginning the ancestors tell us there was the primordial abyss, Nu, and inside Nu was the Po, the tiny little seed that was smaller than an atom, that the creator, Ama, created himself in. And he says, I created myself before existence began to exist. I looked around without having any foundation to stand on. Within my heart, I created Mayat. Mayat became my foundation, and from there, he brought the universe into existence. So we can see that Mayat is the foundation of the universe. Mayat is the glue that holds the universe together. Mayat is dark matter. When you actually think about it, Western science, they discovered dark matter just recently. It's not, just recently they discovered dark matter, and they're confused of why is it there. Because without dark matter, the stars in a galaxy, they would just should go apart, but they don't. They stay there, as if they're glued. That's Mayat. Mayat is the dark matter. And our ancestors understood that, which is crazy. So we see Mayat being not just a principle and not just an ideology, but a physical thing. Okay? Just want to make sure I don't skip over nothing. That's why I got my notes here. It's a physical thing. Now, in the beginning, they said, the primordial waters, that chaotic water, that murky water, was chaos. And in Ma, when he rose out of Noon, he brought order to the chaos with Ma'at. So for us in the Kemetic cosmology, we see that Isfet was in existence in the beginning. And in Western culture, they it's the opposite. They say, evil is in the heart of men. Evil was the fall of men. They Christian doctrine, their mythology, whatever. But for us, we see that evil was in the beginning. They tell us that Seth conceived of evil in the womb before he was born. And when Seth came into existence, he brought forth confusion and disorder. And that's before man. So we have to recognize that we live in an Isfetic society. Yoruba has created this Isfetic civilization. And if you don't recognize that, how you gonna do Ma'at? How you just gonna? It's like I said, it's gonna be like imbalance. We have to recognize that the society that we live in is based on evil, founded on evil, especially America. The foundation of America is death and murder. So Ma'at, I see, like I said, this conversation is that Ma'at is on sort of micro level where you guys teach doing Ma'at for your personal well-being, for the family, which is good, which is cool, because that's how we should be. We should be righteous with each other in a community. We should be that way. However, we have to see that Ma'at has to be placed on the macro level. And we have to restore Ma'at, not just to our community, but to the world. And we can look at Kemet for examples when Tutmosis and Ramses II, Ramses III, they had to restore Ma'at to the kingdom. So they had to go to war. They had to commit violence, acts of violence. They had to be aggressive and mean. This is Ma'at being physical. Because Ma'at conquers Isfet. She didn't conquer him in an intellectual debate, in protesting. Ma'at had to put hands on Isfet. All right? So we just can't be, what I'm saying, just, we're going to sit back and, complain and protest and march. No. Ma'at has to, we bring forth Ma'at by being active. And like I said, we use Tutmosis as an example, as King Ramses as an example. You look at the kings when they was invaded by the Eurasians, they had to kick them out. The book of Contemplation that was written during the era when Kemet was occupied says that doing Ma'at, a righteous king or a righteous person doing Ma'at for the people is not a bad thing. It's looked at as good in the eyes of Ma'at and in the eyes of the creator, Amma. So that's why I say that it's active and it's physical. It's not just an ideology. It's not just a principle that we live up to. All right, Ma'at is physical. It's the foundation of the universe that was built on. All right. We know that the companions of Ma'at, they say was Jehudi. And Jehudi was what? The intellect. He was the intelligence. Jehudi wrote the law, Maat enforced the law. And so it's time to use our intellect, because the war that we still are at war, is an intellectual war. Master teacher Jacob Carruthers wrote that book on intellectual warfare, and he talked about that. You know, the war now is in the universities, and it's a cultural war that we have to deal with to restore Mayat. We have to deal with winning the minds of our children to get them to restore Mayat to themselves and then to the community. So the war in the universities, like I was saying, intellectually, how professors, the university ideology is, Eurocentric. And, they write books like Tribes by Joel Kotzkin. And in this book, he says, there are 5 tribes, there are 5 cultures that are around, that runs this world, that dominates the world, and African culture ain't one of them. Because African people don't see themselves as one, when everybody else see themselves as one group of people. Books like the Great Chessboard talks about cultural superiority and getting European culture to be a superior culture, and having everybody else look at your culture and agreeing to your culture as superior, which kind of reminds me of Professor Wade Noble's definition of racism. He says it's racism is the power to define reality and getting other people to agree on your definition of reality. So you have books like what else? So books, The Power of Ideas, The Bell Curve. Remember the Bell Curve? Bell Curve came out when I was in high school. And not only did it talk about black people being intellectually inferior, it also talked about a part of the American society, 1/4 of the American society, because they talk in codes, will be useless as we go into the future. And that 1/4 must be made a permanent guest of the state. Basically, they must be put in jail. Clash of civilizations. This is the war. This is the intellectual war that we're doing right now. Clash of civilizations talks about cultures, European culture being the superior culture, being the universal culture, and they project it. It has to be projected as universalism, where everybody else's culture is only local and tribal. So this is what they promote in the universities, because these professors, they work there and they teach in their ideologies and they write these books. So you don't think that we're taking, white people economics, European economics, European mathematics, European psychology. Just because they don't label it as psychology, they label it psychology. Label it economics. So you think it's universal. It's for everybody. And this is that war to spread that their culture, which is already known as Isfetic around the world, and to everybody else, which they've done. And so, for us to recapture the mind of our children, we have to fight Isfet and to bring forth Mayat. It has to be an African culture presented to our kids. They have to be raised knowing about African history, African culture, and what happened, African philosophy and ideas and morals, and how they clash with European philosophy. Because once you study African culture, you realize that it's the complete opposite of European culture. Complete opposite. So that's Mayat. That's doing Mayat. It is about being righteous with yourself, being that righteous person. However, at the same time, it's also dealing with Isfet. And that since Yurugu feeds off of Isfet, is driven by Isfet, we have to counter that with that intellectual teaching, the African-centered teaching to our children. And that's what the elders have done for us. And this is that's the problem I have with ADOS and what Foundation of Black America. You know, they want to shout out, yell that, you know, Pan-Africanist, Black nationalists never done anything, you know, for us. It's like, really? They haven't done anything? They laid the foundation. They did the work. The reason you go to them universities that you are is because of what they done. The reason you working at them jobs is because of what they done. Dr. John Henry Clark, check into GOP, Theophil Binga, laid the foundations that we stand on and that we can fight back on that intellectual level, that philosophical level, to deal with the culture of Isfet that we're in today. But most of y'all don't see that because you believe in Isfet. You believe in Yoruba. Y'all love Yoruba and society. The civilization that Yoruba has built. And that's the problem that we're dealing with. So, that's what I really wanted to get at. I wanted to talk about is doing Mayat and Mayat defeating Isfet. It's a theme in Kemetic culture, and we see it in the Kemetic spiritual system. And we saw it when the ancestors had to fight back. They had to restore Mayat to the land. They talked about it all the time. So the fight was physical. They had to get down and dirty and restore Mayat. For us today, like I said, the fight is intellectual. We have to get down and dirty on the intellectual level, the problem is that we're fighting with ourselves as well, because too many of us, as Professor Small says, heaven chose to kill the white man in us. We still want to be like Yoruba and accepting their ideology and their truth. And that's the problem. So for me, the solution, as I see it, is we have to teach the children, the next generation, the history and the culture. Like I said before, you got to teach them the history and the culture. And for them to lose that ideology, that Yoruba ideology, that's going to restore Mayat in the community, not just in the cells, but also in the community. Mayat is going to be restored. So that's what I wanted to talk about. dealing with Isfet, being that righteous person, but within ourselves, you have to kill the Urugu that's within us. And to do that, you can only do that by going back, Sankofa. You gotta go back and get what we left, that African mind. That's all I want. That's all I wanted to say. And I just hope, you guys understand. You just can't talk about Mayat on one side. Just being righteous, just being a righteous person. You have to recognize Isfet and call out Isfet when you see it. And what is Isfet? Identify it. This is Isfet. This is Isfetic. All right. Let's deal with Mayat. So, just want to say, that's it. Thank you.